What's going on, people? Welcome back to another John Sinclair TV. Back again. I've got my guy tonight joining. He used to be the Chronicle journalist, and it's Charlie B. Hi, Charlie.
How we doing, brother? It's glad to be on the show, mate.
Yes,
Chance
and
inviting us on, man.
Yes, Barry met up as well, by the way, because I was going to meet the Rangers and get that chance, didn't I? So it's great to be there. It's great to be here. So
and now we were just speaking offshore, mate. We were like up back in the green screen there. Obviously, Rangers a few weeks ago. I seen you darting around. I seen you on the concourse and stuff with your little camera, and I thought that's not John, the YouTuber, there, isn't it? But I was jumping up and down singing that new Tonali's chant, mate. So I didn't get a chance to say hello.
Hey, I was inside. I was inside the stadium at the back. Oh man, yes, cool, baby.
It was a good weekend, mate. To now, I think it was. I think it gave the fans, and that obviously it wasn't like abroad, it was Scotland, but like it gave fans a flavour of like what the European days might sort of be like again. You know, like obviously you can take more fans to a European game, and obviously there was 8,000 up there, and it was class, mate. It was the Rangers fans were really friendly, and were in that Loudon bar, the supporters bar, and mate, it was a good day.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. It's good to see you back on, mate. Guys, if you like the video and like what you watch, make sure you hit the like, subscribe button as well. If you like to super chat, it is open. And if you like to become a member, it's just 99p. And my show, the channel is being partnered by Tufts, made in Great Britain, Tufts partnership as well. And if you go to the website, www.tufts.com, check out new partners, Tufts, get your retro shirts, 50% off with our exclusive discount code JSTV 15, and that is my channel partnership as well. So let's go for the shirts as well. That's the shirts, Tufts. That's the 1920 Newcastle shirt, 1927 title winning shirt, and back to King's Entertainers 1995. That is worth 65 quid, and if you do order, like I said, 15% off your order as well. So if you want a thing order, go on the website. Just go for some. First of all, what we're going to do, Charlie, we're going to ask you a set of questions as well. And the first question I'm going to ask you is, before we go on to discuss all things Newcastle, can you let the chat know how and why did you get into sports journalism?
Well, funny enough, mate. A little bit of a story here. So,
yeah,
I'm 26 now. So I left school 10 years ago. From leaving school, I was actually a qualified construction worker, mate. I was like working on the roads, tarmacking, concreting, stuff like that. And I just thought I didn't want a bad back by the time I was 30. So I thought, what would I do if there was like no money in the world? Like, so if we were like stripped it back to like caveman times. And I was like, well, it's school. I mean, I wasn't exceptionally clever. I was like quite clever, but English, I was always quite good at English. And I've always been dead like passionate about sport, not even just football, like boxing. I like watching the cricket. I like the MMA. So I put the two and two together, and I was like, English, passion for sport, sports journalism, you know what I mean? So about 21-year-old, 21, 22 or so, went to uni. I was like the old man on my course. I was like the old man on my course, all these 18-year-olds on the course wanting to like talk about going out with a drink and stuff. And I was like, nah, man, I just don't want to go back on that building site, you know what I mean? So one thing led to another. Then obviously started working for the Chronicle for sort of towards the back end of my third year at university.
Yeah.
As a freelance working for the Chronicle, worked there for about 18 months until, when was it? Probably about March, April time.
Yeah.
From the Chronicle, I've did bits and bobs for the Liverpool Echo after that, owned by the same company. A funny story about that, my first shift for the Liverpool Echo was actually the day after Everton away, and I was in the away end. Did you know when we beat them 4-1?
Yeah. I can remember that.
Yeah. So obviously the Liverpool Echo obviously cover Everton as well, and I remember writing an article, like an Everton story, and like people must have seen my name in the byline thinking, who was that, mate? Who was that Charlie Bennett, mate? Or whatever. I looked at this and I realised I was in the away the night before. And yeah, mate, but I'm currently a gun for hire, really. So if there's anybody wanting a sports reporter out there, give us a shout and I'll get back to you.
Cool stuff. Anyone wants to fancy a job with Charlie, just let him know, and then he
Give
can
a
apply to you. Give him a shout. I'd love to be. I'm too old now, so it is what it is, miss. Brilliant stuff. Brilliant, like that. And the next set of questions is, what's the real difference between being freelance as opposed to attached to one outlet?
Well, it's like everything, mate. I mean, in the sort of in the journalism world, it's called being a freelancer. But even if you just say if you are a construction worker or if you work in a factory or something, it might be just like being on the agency where like you work for yourself. Obviously, you have different stuff when it comes like your holiday pay and stuff like that. But you can take your own time off. You're just an agency worker, really, mate. You don't work for the company, but you're not working for the company. It tends to be quite common in journalism because, like, I mean, without knowing, I'll just say you see a presenter doing the presenting for BT Sports or whatever on a Saturday. You might see that presenter working for TalkSport or whatever. Like nine times out of 10, there'll be freelancers with lots of different gigs going on. So that's sort of the difference. I hope you understood what I was trying to say there.
Yeah. I get exactly what you mean. Bless. Oh, good answer. No, it's ended. You touched on TalkSport as well. And Summer, what do you think of the TalkSport presenters and stuff? Do you think when they talk about Newcastle United, do you think it's more they talk about London teams and Scouse teams and that?
Do you know what it is, right? You've got to take TalkSport for what it is. First of all, it depends what the presenter is. TalkSport's all about really just a lot of the presenters on there will say things just to sort of antagonize, just to get people to call in, to gather reactions and stuff. But my guilty pleasure, I do like listening like a Simon Jordan because some of the debates get a little bit spicy. I like it, mate. I mean, when I was at uni part-time, I was doing like the takeaway deliveries and stuff just for a little bit extra cash, and I would always have TalkSport on. Like on a night time, I'd always have it on. Even if it's about the boxing on a Saturday night or whatever. And I like it, mate. I mean, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I like TalkSport.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I don't. A lot of people say despise it. I don't mind it at all. I think it depends what the use the presenter is, but it is what it is. Take it as it is. And next question as well, Charlie, does it make getting work more difficult for you, or does it give you more freedom?
What's this? What was the question? Sorry, John?
The question was, I'm sorry, does it make getting work more difficult, get up for work more difficult for you, or does it give you more freedom?
What does what make it more difficult? The YouTube, do you say?
Yeah, YouTube, journalists as well. Is that tough one, really? So, what saying is
not really, mate. I think YouTube's its own sort of lane. It's a different type of media. You are seeing a lot of people sort of like on TalkSport and stuff now, and Sky Sports and stuff. They're coming from like a YouTube background, which is, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I think a lot of like, especially pundits, it would be hard to be a pundit whether you were, like if you Saturday 4:00 kickoff, they've got the team of pundits there. It would hard to be a pundit whether you were a reporter or a YouTuber because they always have like ex-players and stuff on. I think like that type of work is always going to be leaning more towards ex-players. But no, mate. I'm flirting with the idea of trying to set my own little YouTube channel. It's just taking the leap of faith, John, brother. It's just taking that little push, and just having a vision for it. But it is something that I've thought about doing myself.
Yeah, I think it'll be fantastic, Charlie. 100%. Yeah, I think you'd be absolute dream there.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, dream, absolute dream. I mean, better than Jim White.
I wouldn't know about that.
I like Jim. And the next question is as well. You work primarily for the Chronicle Live, I believe. Given the growth of YouTube channels constantly providing Newcastle content, does this impact your own output?
Well, I think I just touched on that there, John. Yeah, I mean, it's two separate things, but obviously, I mean, mate, even like I watch like the likes of Adam P and stuff all the time, and he's outside the training ground and stuff. But then obviously, like Keith Downey will be there doing the same thing. So in a way, they're both sort of reporting on what's going on, but like they sort of do it in a slightly different way. Obviously, YouTube it allows the person on YouTube to be a bit more sort of casual with it, and maybe put a few more like be a bit crafty with the editing and stuff. I'm all for everybody having a go at anything, mate. You know what I mean? Just fair enough.
You got to take it off the smooth though. At the end of the day, as podcasters as well, you got to like take it. You got to take it with it. Do you know what I mean? Just got to smile about it, deal with it, don't bite, get on with it. You know.
Well, I know you had Steve Rafe on. Was it last week or so?
I did.
And I know he has a good phrase, doesn't he? He says, "If you put your head above the power plant, it's there to be shot at." And that's 100% true. I mean, anybody that puts himself out there, forget YouTube, like even if you were just a professional footballer, or if you're a singer, or if you're an actor, if you put something out there in the public sort of domain, you're there to be shot at, and you're also there to be praised. So you've got to take it with a pinch of salt, I suppose, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you can't take the flack, don't do it. Simple as that. I mean, if you're a footballer and you can't take the criticism, again, don't do it. It comes a part of your job. Simple as that. So
obviously there's a line though, in it, like there's criticism, but then obviously as long as it doesn't lead it like abuse or out, you know what I mean? Like that's obviously there's always a line, but criticism's fair enough. I mean, every sort of grown up should be able to take a little bit of criticism.
Yeah. Totally agree, mate. Finally, before we get on to the football itself, does your position gets you access to areas most people aren't allowed, e.g. press conferences, interviews with players, and also as well, or those attached to the club. Also, you were at the Amazon documentary premiere. I
wasn't at the Amazon documentary, mate, because I haven't been working for the Chronicle since about May.
Right.
But being a reporter does. When I was at the Chronicle, the main men, like I was a sports writer, but the main men covering Newcastle are your Lee Raiders, your Aaron Stokes, and your Kieran Kelly. But I have covered games. I have covered, for example, like Middlesbrough games and Huddersfield games, and I've covered other games. In terms of Newcastle games, the Chronicle's main men were like Lee Raider, like I say, Lee Raider, Kieran Kelly, and Aaron Stokes. So yes, being a reporter does get you like behind the scenes access in that regard. I mean, obviously going to the games, home and away, press conferences, player interviews and stuff like that. So I mean, there is perks to the job, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have loved to be at the premiere myself last week, but I didn't get an invite.
When does it come out? It comes out this week, doesn't it? It comes out this weekend.
I believe it comes out this weekend. I think it's Friday. I could be wrong on that, but
I think you're mate. I think it's Friday. I think it's a day before the season starts, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I'll be back up in Newcastle as well. So I'll be up there to watch it with my partner as well. I'll make sure of that as well. So I'll be talking to her. Don't worry about that.
Well, see, whacking the Newcastle documentary on. I don't know if that's going to go and doing very well, John.
Yes. you got. Can't be the last. You cannot be the last. They're in charge. And we just got to take it as a puppet. Love it, man. But man. Right, let's go on to the party and football side of things. And is it true that there is little to no leaks coming from the club regarding transfer targets or out departures?
Certainly since the takeover. I mean, obviously bits and bobs do get out, but I think if you go back to that first week after the takeover, well, not the first week, the week after Steve Bruce got sacked, and they were looking for a new manager. Yeah. Obviously, it was flying all over the place that they were going to get Unai Emery in, and that didn't end up being the case. And I think they sort of learned real quickly, like when it comes to briefing the press and stuff, that it's best off if they just keep it in house. I think even Eddie Howe, we all love Eddie Howe. He's mint. He's class. You love it when you hear him in interviews and press conferences and stuff. You think, go on, Eddie lad. But from a reporter's point of view, he's actually a bit of a nightmare because he gets asked a question and he's very good at sort of deflecting it or like not wanting to like give anything away. So from a supporter's point of view, he's a dream like that, and from a reporter's point of view, it's a bit of a nightmare. But I think, especially compared to like to be fair, it was a basket case when Mike Ashley won the club, but you never really heard from Mike Ashley or Lee Charney anyway. But you always heard of like bust-ups from the training ground and stuff like that, and fights and that. But yeah, I mean, I think that the new owners definitely have learned real quick to keep the cards close to the chest.
Yeah, and I think that's the best way to be because at the end of the day, there's a lot of guesswork as well. I mean, the thing is though, Charlie, we as fans don't know what's going on within the club. Only the club inside knows everything. So unless they say anything, we don't know. Yeah, and it's too much.
I think so, John. Sorry to put in there. I think the Tonali one was definitely definitely a sort of highlights that perfectly because he was not linked at all. I mean, they were linked with Barella. I think Luke Edwards in the Telegraph did a story saying Barella was linked, and then that came to nothing. And then a few days later, I remember sitting. It was a lovely summer's day, sitting having a bottle of Moretti. It might have been Moretti. It was a bottle of something, and having a little bottle in the garden, and then all of a sudden it starts popping off everywhere. Sandro Tonali's come to Newcastle, and that was a perfect example of like how with the tune you don't really know until it's happened. Obviously, Barnes and Livramento were talked for a couple of weeks, really, but I think if the Tonali one for sure. The Tonali one for sure was obviously a sign about how the club want to operate.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, though, I mean you just don't. You got to expect the unexpected at Newcastle United. You know what I mean? I mean I can remember last season Eddie Howe said that we're not after anyone else. We're happy with the squad we've got. Then a couple of days later, we brought in
Isak. Yeah. I was on my way to Tranmere. It was on the way to Tranmere. We were in the cup when the Isak news broke. So yeah, that's another one. I mean Bruno Gamara is another one. Them sort of. The top caliber players that they brought in, I haven't, other than Sven Botman, because that was a bit of a saga. And Amanda Staveley actually publicly came out and spoke about Sven Botman to the Athletic. But other than that, the sort of top caliber players that they've been chasing has been sort of really under wraps, mate. You're right.
Yeah, we linked about a couple hundred players as well, and they not one said it's true. They just kept it quiet, and I love the way they do transfer dealings in-house, quiet. Don't say now until they tell us that we've got a player coming through the door, and that is the way to do it. Do you know what I mean? And all these social media are coming out and saying, "Oh, we're gonna get him, we're gonna get them." Well, no, simple as that. It's just a process.
Definitely.
So, next question for you as well is: how would you assess the current squad, including our summer signings, in relation to readiness for the coming season?
I think there were a couple of players short. I think Eddie Howe even touched on that, mate, didn't he, in pre-season? I think definitely, without question, I think they need a left back in. I mean, Target, he was good for when they brought him in, what they needed. Keep him in the league, sort of steady Eddie there. But I think if we're playing in the Champions League, we need someone better than that at left back. Obviously, Dan Burn played there last season, but it would almost be like signing two players at once. People are on about signing a centre half, and I think that would be the next priority, signing a centre half. But if you've got a left back in, Dan Burn would then also be a cover centre half as well as a cover left back. So I think there are a couple of players short, mate. I think in midfield they're looking really strong in midfield. I mean, Bruno, Tonali, Joe Linton, Willock, Longstaff, Anderson. I don't know if I've missed anybody else there, but midfield is by far and away the strongest area of the team. And you'd have to say right fullback as well. They've got two strikers in Wilson and Isak who can both score goals. They've got good options out wide with Gordon and Barnes and Almiron. I think it would just be left back the priority, mate, for me. And then if I'm being really greedy, a centre back as well, but left back number one definitely. And then what we can't forget is there's a lot of sort of deadwood on the book still that need loaned out. They've done a good job so far getting rid of Darlow, who obviously class servant, and who else has went out? Lewis has went out on loan. I think
Lewis is loan Watford.
Yeah, mate. But there's a couple others there who are on like decent wages who could still be shipped on 100%.
Yeah, Fraser, we want him as well. Get him out very, very soon. Because
there's one. You could write a canny big list, John. To be honest with you, mate, there's a few. Is Hendrick still kicking about? There's a lot of players there. I think with
Hayden.
Hayden with Livramento still coming in. You could maybe get rid of Manquillo. There's a lot of players there who could be moved on, who would sort of generate the wages for another player.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, totally agree. If you can get rid of before the window slams shut, I think it'll be a cracking window. Got to get a left back and a centre back, in my opinion, as well. And the next question for you, Charlie: do you believe there will be more coming in? You mentioned it anyway. What position do you mention that as well? Left back and centre back as well. So we pretty much cover that as well, didn't we? So
I do think there'll be more, mate. I do. I mean, they've said Tonali, Livramento, Barnes, and the young kid Minty as well.
Minty.
I do, mate. I don't think they're done. I don't think they're done. I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether you're going to see. I could be wrong here. I'm not sure if you're going to see another like a Isak style or like another Tonali style level player, but I definitely think they'd be looking for someone under the age of 24, 25 who can improve and become at left back. I think we need someone. If we had a Kieran Trippier at left back, I think that would change the whole dynamic of Newcastle's team. If that happened, I would fancy them for top 4.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you touched on top 4. I mean, we have got the players. I mean, Jamie Carragher was very, very, disappointed with our signings this season, right? I mean, he said that, we could have done a bit better with our signings. I mean, the players we brought in, he thinks it's not going to be good enough for Champions League. But Jamie Carragher doesn't know now about Newcastle United. He's a Liverpool fan and former Liverpool player. So for me, Eddie Howe's know what he's doing. And, what do you think of his comments?
I mean, Eddie Howe at the minute, Eddie Howe just walks on water at the minute. So I think, in Newcastle, so I think Eddie Howe's got that much credit in the bank that we could have done anything this summer, and Newcastle fans are just all for it, 100% supportive. On Carragher's comments though, I mean, I think this is going back right to the start of the takeover, from day one when the Saudis came in. Obviously, you had stupid Mbappe was linked and Neymar's and all these players, and that's never really been the case. So 2 years down the line, when they've got Champions League football, if that's still not going to be the case, I think people need to get the memo that they've got a set way of doing it. They want to bring the right players in with the right personality, and maybe the signings in terms of what Chelsea would be doing, signing an Nkunku, and that maybe it is underwhelming on that level. But then if you look at the bigger picture, Chelsea, in my opinion, they're in a total mess. They've signing Mudryk and Fernandes, and they're just a bit of a car crash of a club. Whereas Newcastle are well run and they're putting building blocks in place, and they're doing it more measured. But in the long run, it's a bit of a hare and the tortoise, really. Do you want to go all out, boom, 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 and then end up getting nowhere, or do you want to just quietly go about your business, getting the right players in, being more measured about your approach? And so far, I mean, nobody can complain, really. It's been pretty much nigh on perfect since the owners came in.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we go into the chat as well, it's one from me about the membership as well. I mean, this membership carry on. I mean, over 100,000 people got memberships as well. And I've got a season ticket and I can't buy an extra ticket. But now, what's your take on this situation about the members and also this new digital? You got to scan with a digital phone as well to get into stadium. Do you think it's the way forward? Do you think the owners have tried to do things too quickly, or should I not be waiting until next season?
John, you're trying to get me chinned, you aren't you? Answering this question. It's one of them questions. It's one of them questions where, I mean, you said you're a season ticket holder who kind of get an extra ticket, but there's a flip side. Fair enough. No, do you know what I mean? So that's your view. So you're going to be bothered about something that affects you, and then obviously if somebody's a member, they're going to have their own, their own dog in the fight, and then somebody's going to have their own dog in the fight. There's only 52,000 seats, minus the away fans, minus the corporate.
Yeah,
the demand is huge.
It is.
I'll answer this, or definitely in terms of the digital tickets. I mean, I'm a bit of an old school kind of guy. I mean, I've got a lot of for example, the match day program upstairs from when they beat Sunderland 5-1, and I've still got the tickets inside. I sort of like having the ticket's a memory, isn't it? So if we're going down that route, I'm not really a fan of the digital tickets, to be honest with you. I think it's asking for potential problems. I think one or two people had problems at the Cellar Cup on the weekend and stuff getting in. Maybe it's just teething problems or whatever. But I'm a bit old school in that. I like a physical paper ticket, and if I buy a PlayStation game, I'd rather have it the physical copy rather than buying it off the store. That's just sort of what I'm like, mate. You know what I mean? So. Let's say everyone's got a dog in the fight. I think it was definitely a lot more anger than positivity when the member stuff came out. I think it's probably more.
Yeah.
What I think irked people more was how the memberships were unlimited, throughout the season. That had never happened before. I think if they had maybe limited the memberships, I think people would have been a bit more on board with it. But like I say, they can't really win.
Yeah.
No,
it's fine. So it's your opinion at the end of the day, and it's just getting your point of view as well. But for me, I think it's fair. But that's a subject. It's quite touchy. But at the end of the day, right? I mean, it gives people a chance to purchase their tickets as well if you're a member. So yeah.
What's an interesting, John, actually, is if you look at the away tickets for Man City.
Yeah.
I don't think many people anticipated this, but they've done this a few times over the years where they've tried to sort of say there's going to be like ID checks on away games, and you could end up losing your season ticket and stuff. I personally don't see how they can enforce that at away games. I mean, I just can't see that happening. You've got 3,000 fans trying to get into an away end. 85% of them are drinking alcohol. You've got the stewards, away stewards down different parts of the country. Bless them, earning minimum wage. They're not going to enforce that, in my opinion, anyway. But if you look at the actual tickets on the away day, like the away part of the website, there's like 550 digital tickets for Man City, and I think there's still like 530 left. I think Man City last year sold out at like 60 away points. And there's over 1,000 tickets still unsold, and there's like, I think it's dropped down to 50 points. So that game could theoretically go down to like 10, 20 points or whatever. And I think it might be easier for people to get away tickets this season. It might be like the new system might make that easier to do.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you because I don't think it's going to work. Searching all 3,000 people, that's going to be so time consuming. Again, you have to plan things out, and unfortunately, I mean, especially I love the orders and all this policing and that, so it's not going to work. I mean, end of the day, right? Buy your ticket, right? If you win the ballot, cool, that's fine. That's your ticket. Then you can just go and just enjoy the game. But at the end of the day, Charlie, I think it's going to be a fiasco again if it's going to happen. Searching all these people, it's not going to work, mate. It's not going to work. But there you go. I'll show people pull ask this again. Go to the questions now to the chat. Any questions for Charlie? Just fire away. And if you like the video, like it, watch, like, subscribe as always. And come remember, Leslie, also not about being a freelancer, i.e., does this make it harder to progress?
It's different, really. It depends, really. I mean, you've got lots of different like if you go through the pros and the cons, I mean, you can be a company guy and work your way up through like a single company, or you could have your toes in many different ponds and sort of get your name out there that way. It's honestly, mate, you could write a list of cons, you could write a list of pros, freelancer and on the books, and they probably even each other out. You know what I mean? There's one's not better than the other.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you, Leslie. Barbara, good evening to you. It was lovely meeting in person on Sunday. Roll on next Saturdays against Villa. 3-1 to Newcastle. Barbara, it's been a pleasure seeing you at the airport as well. And thank you very much for that quick interview as well. And also embarrassed over the bid. Oh, bless. Didn't know that, Barbara. Thank you very much. You were good. Even to Alan, hope you have a good evening, mate. And take care to you, mate. And Jolly, message for you, mate. Thanks for your super chat the other day. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much indeed. It's got a question for you as well. Do you ever get to Sunderland games?
Luckily, I never got sent to a Sunderland game, but I did have to do one. I think it was like during COVID, where it was like behind closed doors. You know what I mean? And I for some reason I didn't have like a press pass or something, so I literally had to like do a match report and stuff for Sunderland from home, which was a bit weird because obviously I couldn't sit in the press conference afterwards, and being predominantly like a Newcastle, covering Newcastle, and like obviously my Twitter feed is like Newcastle.
Yeah.
I actually looked in the Chronicle the next day out of interest, and they didn't actually put my name as doing the match report. They put it like as just as like even like the Chronicle rather than like me.
Yeah.
I thought it was a bit funny, but I did get sent to a couple of Middlesbrough games. Michael Carrick's first game last season, I did that one, and I did one last year, the year before that, when it was Chris Wilder was the manager. So I did a couple of Middlesbrough games, but thankfully the Sunderland one I did was from my own house.
Wow. Best place to be. Best place to be. Tell you what, though. I mean, I said to someone one day, I think it's about 6 months ago, I said, should I do a content, Life and State of a Light? Not a good idea. Unless your name is Eddie. Tyneside Life. He's a great guy. He is. Bless him.
Did you see that video when Eddie went over to Sunderland and started asking them, like, do they know what it means to be a Mackem and that? Do you know where the term Mackem comes from or something? I don't know if anyone's seen it in the chat there, but I'll check that video out on Tyneside Life. That was a good little watch.
It was. I do that at Sunderland. Can you imagine me going to Sunderland asking a question as well? I tell you what, I'll probably get it wrong. But it's what it is. We're good for the content. Good luck, brave Eddie. Charlie, Isak or Wilson, or would you play both? From Johnny.
That's a good question because I think that's probably the biggest dilemma in Newcastle's team. I think for the most part, the keeper picks itself. If everyone's fit, the defence picks itself. Midfield, 2 out of 3 pick itself. The Isak Wilson debate is tough because they were sort of chopping and changing towards the back end of last season. I know Isak played off the left a couple of times when he went on that mad run against Everton and stuff, but he had that like sort of plan B, didn't he? It worked a charm against Brentford, and it worked against Southampton at home, I believe, where he had one of them on the bench and then he brought the other one on, and then they just absolutely clicked. But it never really worked to as good effect when they started together. I would go Isak. I mean, we're marquee signing. In terms of a technical player, he's better than Wilson. He's pure genius on the ball and stuff. I just think Wilson's the more ruthless goal scorer, isn't he? I mean, his goal scoring form last season, especially towards the back end of the season, was mint.
Great.
And I think what's actually helping Wilson contribute more is like when he was the only striker Newcastle had, when he was the main man, and we had to play him every game. He was sort of breaking down a lot, wasn't he? He was having hamstring problems, he was getting injured. Whereas now Eddie Howe can sort of manage him a bit better, and I think that's sort of working well. Short answer is I'd go with Isak. Starting the season, I'd go with Isak, but that was a good question. That was a hard one.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that as well, Jolly. Got one for IC. Hi to you, mate. Who starts on the left, Gordon or Barnes? Now, this is a very tricky one at the minute. I mean, Anthony Gordon's quality, and also Harvey Barnes showing his class when he scored twice against Villarreal on Sunday.
Well, I would like to see Barnes on the left and Gordon on the right, because Gordon's is very two-footed, and Barnes is going to get you more goals. Gordon can play either side, but Barnes hasn't really played much on the right. So I would like to see Gordon on the right and Barnes on the left. But in terms of this weekend, I actually think Barnes is going to start on the bench because you look at when sort of Bruno came in, and he sort of eased him in a bit. You look at when Botman came in, he eased him in a bit.
Yeah,
I can sort Isak, and I started that first game against Liverpool and then got injured. But then when he was coming back from injury, it was the same again where he sort of got eased into it. And I think he may do that with Barnes, especially because he's got options there who can sort of play his position anyway. So I would play Barnes on the left and Gordon on the right, but I think Eddie Howe will ease Barnes into it.
Yeah. Good, have to agree. I think we just start along the way, but through expense as well. Just on my question on me, I mean, ASM, do you miss Alison Maximin? And do you think it's the right time for him to be moved on by Eddie, or is he a victim of FFP?
Well, I've always been a bit of a conspiracy theorist when it comes to FFP, because you see these other teams, Barcelona have absolutely butchered it, and they're getting like slaps on the wrist and stuff. I think Newcastle used the FFP card to just sort of lower the tone and expectations a little bit, like keep everybody a little bit reserved. Alan St. Maximin, I mean, I loved him. I mean, you look at players in the past. Before my time, you had Ginola. When I was a kid, you had Robert. I definitely remember Ben Arfa, and obviously I remember St. Maximin. When you look at when them players played, they're maverick sort of French players, they always divided the fan base at the time. Well, I'm led to believe with Ginola, and I know the other ones definitely did. And I think St. Maximin's going to be the same again. I think when you look back in 5 years' time, when they put a video, when the media team put a video out of Alan Saint-Maximin in 5 years' time, I think everybody will be unanimous that they absolutely loved him and he was meant for the tune. He was the one player who sort of, during the last days of Mike Ashley, he kept young kids like round my end and stuff in Newcastle shirts and not in Man United shirts and Man City shirts and stuff. So I was sad to see him go, mate. I think if you're going off talent, mate, he's good enough to be in the squad for sure. So I didn't really understand selling him. But my point when I mentioned before, Eddie Howe's got enough credit in the bank. You've just got to sort of trust the club on this one, really. But I was sad to see him go, John.
Yeah, same here as well. I mean, I do like ASM. For me, he has got an end product, and I will say that because he could have done more. Yeah. But if you look at his record, 4 seasons, 11 goals in 4 seasons, and what's it, 21 assists, something like that.
Yeah. I think he got unlucky. I think he got unlucky. I think he got unlucky a bit last season because the second or third home game, he absolutely rinsed Man City and
he did.
And turned Kyle Walker inside out. And then the away game after, might be right in saying that, there was the Wolves game where the last minute bang with a volley. And then he got injured for about four months or so till after the World Cup. And then when he was coming back into it, Newcastle was sort of flying. And then he sort of struggled to get back into the team. I remember the Carabao Cup final, I think he was probably the best player for Newcastle. But other than that, he sort of struggled to get back into the team because Newcastle were doing so well. And it's like I say, mate, I was sad to see him go, but you've got to trust the club on this one.
Yeah, 100%. And we've got one for Leslie. Hi, Leslie. Question for you, Charlie. Given the pundits gives us no chance Champions League spot, what is your take on it?
Well, I mean, if I was to predict it, I would. Newcastle hat on, we're still fighting for this title, we're going to win it all, blah blah blah. But if I'm looking at it more reserved, what I actually think, I think you've got Man City, you've got Arsenal. I don't think Chelsea are getting the top 4. I honestly think it could be Man City, Arsenal, Man U, Liverpool. Which, like, not saying that's the order, just them 4 clubs. But you look at Liverpool. If you had asked us a month and a half ago, I would have said Liverpool definitely. Yeah. But I think Liverpool, like with Jordan Henderson going and Fabinho going, and even the fringe players like Oxlade-Chamberlain going and Milner going and Keita going, they haven't really got any midfielders. They're going to start the season with 3 midfielders. So that has opened the door a little bit for Newcastle. I would put, as it stands, 5th, but I wouldn't rule out 4th. But this is the interesting part, John. I don't know if people in the chat know. 5th this season could get Newcastle in the Champions League anyway. Yeah. Newcastle might not even have to finish 4th and still get in the Champions League because of the way the Champions League's sort of changing. If English clubs perform the best in Europe this season or the second best in Europe this season, 5th in the Premier League will get Champions League. So I'll go 5th. I'll go 5th and still qualifying in the Champions League. How about that one for you, John? Or Leslie in the chat.
I'd take that as well. I'd take 5th this season.
But Champions League by hook or by crook, I think anybody would take it. Know what I mean?
I know, you're absolutely right. The things I like to improve on year in, year out. I'd like to finish 3rd next year. It's going to be difficult looking at it. But I'd take 5th. I'd take 5th to be playing fantastic stuff.
I think Tottenham will slide this season. I don't see Chelsea. A few people think Chelsea are going to have this massive rebuild under Pochettino, and I'm not really buying it. I mean, Nkunku's the only player who looked good in pre-season, other than the striker they've just signed. Can't remember his name.
Nicholas Jackson.
Leslie
Dunn. I speak to her about Nicholas Jackson. This guy is new to the job back. He gonna do big.
He looks a beast. He does look a good player. He's young though, isn't he? He's young, really young. Yeah, he's really young. But Nkunku's just been injured for 4 months. I know they've just signed Brighton's second choice keeper on loan. With an option to buy, I think. They still need a couple of midfielders. They're looking.
They do.
I don't. They've obviously lost some players in like Mount and stuff. Mudryk never really looked all that last season. I don't think Chelsea are going to get in there. Tottenham definitely not. I think Aston Villa could be dark horses. For sure. I know a lot of people have said that Aston Villa could be the one to watch that aren't already in that sort of established set of clubs. I think they'll be all right, mate. I think Newcastle's strongest asset is that they're really hard to beat. I think they lost 5 games last season. They haven't lost a single game in pre-season. They're really, really tough to beat. So even if they're not playing very well, they were still like drawing games, and so I think Newcastle will be all right, man. I don't think they've got nothing to worry about.
Have to agree. Good answer there, Charlie. Good answer. Also for Leslie, predicted team line up for the Villa game on Saturday, and I've done a content yesterday with a different Charlie, young Charlie, and he was fantastic. The content is out there. Go and check it out. And yeah, you're predicted. If you was the manager, put you as the manager. Who would you pick?
Who would I pick, or who was Eddie Howe going to pick? I'll go with what I think. Seeing as predicted line, as well as predicted lineup, I'll go with what I think Eddie Howe is going to pick.
Yeah,
Pope, Byrne left back, Trippier right back. I think you'll go. Botman and Lascelles at the back. I think you'll go with Bruno sitting. I think you'll go Tonali, Joe Linton, and then I think you'll go Almiron, Isak, and Gordon on the left. That's what I think he's going to play.
Yeah, still a good team.
I don't think it's how's Willock looking. I mean, Willock's not look. He hasn't really played much in pre-season as well as he's. Like, I don't know whether he'll be. I think that the big dilemma, mate, is defence, is centre half, especially with Shea, touch and go. A lot of eagle-eyed fans today were looking at the training pictures, and Shea wasn't in them, which obviously isn't a good sign. We've got another 3-4 days till the game.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the big one. I think if Shea's past fit to play, I think he plays, but I think he'd go with Lascelles because for that right-footed centre half, plus he's obviously the captain and stuff. I think he'd go with Lascelles. That Aston Villa game in pre-season as well, he looked good, Lascelles, didn't he? So
he did. He absolutely did. And you know, like if he does it in the Premier League games, it'd be absolutely fine. Mm-hmm. And as Barnes, for me, he's a much better finisher than Gordon. That's some Barbs. The reason why the club's going digital, banks are refusing to deal with cash, so it's being forced upon the clubs and business in general. Do you agree with that, Marco?
Nah, man, cashless society's creeping in, man, John Brother, isn't it? The odd, but I mean, I said I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. So I do like me to be a little bit skeptical and stuff about things. So I don't really like the cashless society, but that's looking like the way it's going to go, bro. I mean, it's cashless inside of St James's Park and that now, isn't it? It's not for me, man. I mean, what if all the systems go down? You know. You can't spend cash. Could be a bit of a mad one, but see how it goes, bro. See how it goes.
Exactly. Jolly 9. We go to Jolly. Top 4 again or cup run?
Cup win all day. I mean, purely the fact we've already had the top 4 last season, so cup win, mate. I mean, I don't know if you went down to Wembley, John, but
I did.
I mean, losing that day was obviously brutal. You'll remember the Wembley defeats back in the day as well. I imagine that it's been 67 years or so, 68 years or whatever it is, without domestic silverware. Get some silverware in that trophy room, mate. It's been far too long. There's people's great granddads and stuff who was, you know what I mean? You can't even remember Newcastle winning out. So as good as this European journey is going to be and stuff, get some silverware in the bag, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what it is, right? I mean, look, if we win a cup, I'll be over the flipping ring, Charlie. I really, really would.
It's one of them things, you know, where it's like things to do before you die. Like that is like seeing Newcastle winning something is like on every Newcastle fan's bucket list of like, I hope I see Newcastle win something before I die. And under Mike Ashley, I mean, I was like 10-year-old when he bought the club, and I was starting to think I'm running out of time. You know what I mean? That's how bleak it was. That's how bleak it was. But I may get some silverware in. I mean, couldn't even imagine the parties and stuff, especially like even the League Cup. Mate, people would have been going mental, man. Never mind the day, touch wood, that like hopefully the Saudi cash and years to come, the Premier League, Newcastle is going to be off work for about a month when they win the Premier League, man. So get some silverware in the bag for sure.
100%, 100%. That's what you do. Trophy, you cannot top it. You just cannot top it. Good. Terry Hibbert, the best winger we've ever had, in my opinion. That's from Leslie. Gordon has stamina issues. I would play Gordon 45, get the most out of him. And talking about conspiracy theories related to ASM, many believe he wasn't always injured, especially around the January time. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I don't know whether that was I mean, he sort of struggled with injuries throughout his time anyway, didn't he?
Oh, Christian's answered as well. Go on, Colonel.
No, I was just looking at this question here. John, does Charlie think Maxi's 100%? I mean, definitely. I mean, I tweeted at the time, I think Keith Downey put that it was 23 million. If it was a Premier League club coming in for, say, Maximin, it would be double that. Like they'd be wanting at least double 23 million. I think, especially when you look at the Saudi clubs, I mean, Ruben Neves, like 50 odd million. Some of the fees have been going around are absolutely mental. And I do think Piff, obviously owning Newcastle and, you know, Al Hilal, Al Nasser, I think they've got a bargain at Newcastle's expense. But it's hard to obviously knock them because the players they've been bringing in and what they've been doing to the club. But I do think they've got a bargain at Newcastle's expense for Maxi, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I talk about the Saudis, in my opinion. I mean, they're going to make the Premier League look like paupers at some stage. You know what I mean? With constant wages. Look at Jordan Henderson. He's on £700k a week. £700,000 a week.
Yeah, it was funny actually because when I was working for the Liverpool Echo not long ago, and obviously like you know banter and stuff with the other reporters, but obviously I was the only Newcastle fan, and it was like oh, you know, like obviously like oil money, blah blah blah, Saudi money, you know, blah blah blah. Do you know? Because obviously we were going for the top four with Liverpool.
Yeah.
And now you've got Gerrard and Henderson, two club legends, going over there for the Saudi money. So it's like, yeah, revenge is a dish best served cold sometimes.
Yeah. Wow. I tell you what, I was always going to happen. Do you know what I mean? I thought Stevie G was going to go to Saudi. He'd be happy getting an English club, but you know, wish him well.
Did you see the video of him, John? Did you see the video of him? Bless him, man. I mean, being a Geordie lad, would have the same problem, but like his first training session, he obviously was trying to like instruct the players and stuff, and obviously his thick Scouse accent, and they couldn't really understand what he was saying. And did you see it? And I was just thinking, man, that must have been the moment when he realised, I came here for the money.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. You can't tell me he's going there for a project. Is that for the money?
Yeah,
the man, you better dig at that. Doing Antonio Conte then, am I? Brilliant. As a journalist, have you ever been tempted to investigate the source of money coming into each Premier League club and blowing a hole in the fallacy that we are all the club is Saudi money?
I mean, it's not even just Premier League clubs, mate. I mean, you just need to look at like companies and stuff. And I mean, without getting too deep into it, I mean, like our country sells like arms and stuff to Saudi Arabia, and like you know, Twitter before Elon Musk swarmed in was like partially owned by Saudi, and like Disney had like the PIF had shares in Saudi. So this is the argument, like when the takeover was like it deadlocked. That would sort of be revisiting that argument again, where it was like, why can't Newcastle be bought by Saudi Arabia? So I mean, yeah, you could probably walk down your high street or walk through the Metro Centre, and you'd probably see sort of drop down effect of Saudi money everywhere. So, and even if you just look at football, they're all at it, man. They're all at it when it comes to Saudi money. We've just mentioned Liverpool there. You know, Mitrovic is meant to be going to Fulham. You've got Chelsea offloading players left, right, and centre. They're all benefiting from Saudi money. You know what I mean? If anything, when it came, obviously Maxi, like we were the only club who hasn't benefited from the selling players for hyper-inflated prices to Saudi. So it's a weird one. Like football is littered with dodgy money, shall we say? Not just Saudi Arabia, from other countries as well. So I think the horses are already bolted on that one.
Yeah, I totally agree. But they're going to do better than the Chinese Super League. I can tell you that. The Saudi League's going to be here for a long time. Yeah. Mark me words. And what's your ambitions as a journalist? As from Leslie.
Cheers for that question, Leslie. I mean, good question. My ambition when I set out was always to B, like what the Lee Raiders and the Craig Hopes are like, where it's like I want to follow Newcastle home and away, be in the press conferences and stuff. And that was that's what I think can be an achievable goal further down the line at some point. To be a proper Newcastle reporter going home and away.
Yeah, good answer there. I mean, we not like to work for the London ones that work in London in the future.
I would 100%, mate. I mean, I've got a little daughter. I've got a 4-year-old daughter. Well, she's 4 on Sunday, mate. I've been getting bombarded off Amazon this week. The Amazon drivers have not been stopping at my door all week because it's her birthday on Sunday. But so I've got that to worry about, mate. But I would 100%. I mean, I'm looking around for jobs at the minute, like across the country, really. So that's never troubled us. I'd always travel up on weekends or whatever and stuff like that.
Yeah. Fantastic stuff. I hope you wish you all the best on that one as well. And you got to put your family first as well. The Independent newspaper was shouting about human rights in Newcastle, and it's turned out that Saudi Arabia owns part of the Independent. Now, that's the first I've heard of that.
No, it's true. Yeah, it's actually true that. I mean, Miguel Delaney, the reporter for the Independent, he was one of the most vocal, like anti-takeover, blah blah blah, anti-Saudi with Newcastle and stuff, and anti-PIF and. Bob's uncle, he actually works for the Independent, who's partially owned by Saudi Arabia. So, like I say, mate, everywhere you look is going to be Saudi cash. It's just, you know what I mean? Coming back to, I mean, it's like I said before, didn't really want to get too deep on the subject.
No, that's fine.
I believe any man and his dog, you could ask a brickie. I'll use what I was. I was a road worker for years. Average road work out on the road, say he's getting paid 400, 500 quid a week. You say, right, you're going to work in Saudi Arabia for 2 years. You're going to be on 4 grand, 5 grand a week. You know what I mean? His eyes are going to light up. He's going to be there. It's just everybody's got a moral compass till enough money comes in, and it's just how far you go with your moral compass. I believe that anyway. I believe anybody that. I mean, Jordan Henderson is obviously Sunderland through and through. We've got no reason to back Jordan Henderson here, but the amount of criticism he got, I thought it was really unfair. I thought it was. I just thought if anybody put themselves in his position, say he was on 100 grand a week at Liverpool, he's then getting 700 grand. They're going to be tax free as well. By the way, they're going to do exactly the same thing.
Yeah, that's very true. Look, at the end of the day, if someone offers you that sort of money a week, you're not going to turn out that money, are you?
John, I'll ask you the same question. I mean, I'm not going to ask you how much money your YouTube channel makes, but say a Saudi station came in and was like, right, I'm going to times that by 10. You would do it, wouldn't you? You would. You're going to be doing the same thing. You're going to be talking about Newcastle. You're going to be getting guests like me on or whatever, and we're going to give you 10 times the amount. You'd be doing it straight away, wouldn't you, bro?
100%, bro. Because at the end of the day, right? I mean, you got to go where the money is. You know what I mean? It's not being greedy. You got to do better for yourself, you know. Yeah. And it could be a family. It could be, better yourself, which is absolutely fantastic. So look, I would do it 100%. I mean, you would. People in the chat would as well.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
It's as simple as that. And is it different watching the game as a journal as opposed to a fan?
Yeah, it actually is. It actually is. I know if you speak to some people who have been doing it for years, I remember my tutor. Some of you might remember him, Neil Farrington. He used to cover like for the Sunday Sun back in the 90s and the noughties. He actually spoke about it. Like you do get a sense of detachment where, because it sort of is a job and it becomes a job, the sort of love as a fan can sort of like wither a bit, because obviously you might get in like heated confrontations with one of the managers, or sort of even fans or whatever. Obviously, with it being a job, it can sort of it does sort of become a bit separate. But for me, from my point of view, because I was only sort of writing for the Chronicle for 18 months, I was able to separate the supporter and reporter while I was working. But I was still going to games as a fan, still going to away games and stuff. And right now, I'm a supporter, not a reporter, until I get sort of back into it. So yes, I can't remember who else asked that question. Was it Lindsay again?
Leslie,
sorry, Leslie. I was to say Lindsay. Sorry, Leslie. It's just because it said L. It said L and then surname. Oh fuck. Yeah, Leslie. So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, it is definitely different watching a game as a reporter or a supporter for sure.
Fantastic. And going over a couple more minutes before we wrap up the show. It's been fantastic, Sean, tonight. And everyone's talking about the pink as well. Start with Jolly, kick off in the pink again. Used to love me dad bringing me the pink back for the club.
Well, I actually pitched the idea for the Carabao Cup final to bring the pink back for one a sort of special, but it didn't happen. They did a pull out instead.
Wow. Bless you. And just one final question from me is got one from Jolly as well. How if you could pick just one player to sign for Newcastle United, who would it be?
Go on, John, I'll let you go first, mate.
For me, I would go for I'd go for either Kvaratskhelia or Osimhen, one of the two for Napoli. So one of those two, who are fantastic. Yeah. For me, I want a skillful player, Kvaratskhelia for me at the minute. What about you, Charlie?
Well, I mean, I was banging on about a left back before, so I'm going to say Theo Hernandez, the left back for AC Milan. Mind after getting Botman and then Tonali, I think if we got Theo Hernandez, we'd have to be praying we didn't get them in the Champions League, like, because there could be hell on if we end up getting Theo Hernandez as well, and we end up playing AC Milan.
Yeah,
I would go for him. I would go for him, a world class left back, someone who would just change the game for the tune.
Absolutely. And just a couple more. I mean, first of all, let's hope the new standing area contributes to the atmosphere, because lots of times we're fans singing where your famous atmosphere. Well, we drown them out anyway. So that's number one. Secondly, we're going to have a fan park as well in probably October, November time.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just on the fan, the safe standing there, 100%. I've been proper campaigning that for years, and it's only 1,500 seats. I see a seats, you know what I mean. Yeah. But I see the picture of it, and it actually looks a lot more than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I know it's sort of like a trial period, but 100%, I think that could work definitely, and it could expand to. Hopefully one day might be a full stand. I went to a Fortuna Dusseldorf game last year, and that was one of the best in Germany, and that was one of the best atmospheres I've ever been to in my life. It was unbelievable. It was like they had like a full stand of standing, and it's like constantly all game up and down with like flags and stuff. There's a man at the front with a megaphone who just like isn't even watching the match. It was crazy. So safe stand, and hopefully we'll have a big impact here.
Yeah. Let's hope it's the case. Well, Charlie, thank you so much for coming on tonight. And it's been great to get you a bit about you, your journal life, and your insight on the club itself. And where could people find you on social media, and how can you get your support and all you do?
It's after to me tagline there. It's at Charlie Bennett on Twitter. I think the L is actually an I, but just type in Charlie Bennett on Twitter and I'll be on there definitely. Like I said at the start of the show, I'm flirting with the idea of doing my own YouTube channel at some point, so you might see John and my show further down the line.
Yes, get me in. I will be top of the board, first line. You know what I mean? I really appreciate it. Oh, I can't wait. Let me start.
Just have this on, pal.
No, but before I let you go, right? I mean, did you enjoy coming on my show as well?
Definitely, mate. I mean, I'm surprised it's been so long. I've been on it like pretty much nearly every sort of YouTube channel, like Newcastle YouTube channel going. So it's been long overdue, mate, but I've enjoyed it, pal, and Charles having us on, I guess.
No problem at all. And guys, in the chat, thanks so much for coming on. Thanks to Barbara, Leslie, Jolly, Marco, and Gareth, and Alan as well, and all the others in the chat as well. I'll be back tomorrow for the match preview at 8:00, where Joe Aston Villa fans could come on, and my regular Paul Newcastle fans could come on as well. And also, if you'd like to check out my new partners, Toffs, get your retro shirts, www.toffs.com, 50% off your order with our exclusive discount code JSTV. There's the sponsorship, a lot of sponsorship partners there. And there you got the shirts as well. These are £65 each. If you order them, then you get 15% off your order as well. So, guys, thank you so much for joining. Thanks, Charlie. I'll build you backstage. And, guys, if you like the video, like what you watch, make sure you like and subscribe. And as always, away the lads.